All right, so today we're going to zoom in on one specific place, on one specific day. Hastings, Minnesota, this Sunday, January 25th. And yeah, it is going to be freezing cold. But what's really fascinating is what makes an ordinary winter day like this so extraordinary. It's all the history hidden just beneath the surface. I love this description from Hastings9.com. Sunshine and serious bundle-up energy. It just perfectly captures the whole vibe, doesn't it? You know the kind of day I'm talking about? It's beautiful, it's crisp, but it's so cold that when you're looking at that gorgeous frozen river, you're also wondering if your eyelashes are going to freeze together.
And this number right here, well, it basically defines the entire experience. -30 degrees Fahrenheit. And let's be clear, that's not the air temperature. That's the wind chill they're expecting tonight. Wow, that's a number that just demands your respect.
Okay, so let's really break it down. What does a day like this actually look and feel like for the folks on the ground there in Hastings?
So the high for the day is going to struggle to even get to 4 degrees before it absolutely plummets to 15 below zero. And look at that wind. It's not even a strong wind, but it's that sneaky, persistent little breeze from the north-northwest that just cuts right through you and makes everything feel so much colder. It's the kind of thing that turns a few light flurries into what feels like icy needles hitting your face.
So the day's going to play out in a few stages. The morning is going to trick you, right? It'll look all sunny, but it's still just brutally cold. Then you've got this little window in the afternoon, say between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., where you might see a little bit of snow. And then, boom, once that sun goes down, the temperatures just fall off a cliff. The evening is when that real deep freeze truly sets in. So how do you even deal with that? Well, the advice from local sources is pretty simple, but it's absolutely vital. You've got to cover all exposed skin. We're talking hat, gloves, scarf, the whole deal. The wind chill is the real danger here, so any trips outside, keep them as short as you possibly can. And just a heads up, an official cold weather advisory is already expected to be in effect by Monday morning.
You know, you have to have a great sense of humor to get through a Minnesota winter. And the local take on those flurries is just perfect. They're not a nuisance, they're winter confetti celebrating how tough Hastings is. I just love that. It really captures the spirit of the place.
But here's the thing. While the cold is obviously the big story in Hastings today, the date itself, January 25th, well, it carries a much bigger story. It's been the backdrop for some truly remarkable moments in history.
So this is the real question we're getting at. Beyond the temperature, what makes this specific day so important? What kind of hidden history is buried under all that snow?
All right, let's look back at some of the pioneers and trailblazers who, on this very date, chose to brave a different kind of cold to really make a mark on the world.
Here's our roadmap. We're looking at 3 totally separate events on 3 different January 25ths, all spanning just over a century. And what's so cool is that each one of them represents a huge first, and each one required a ton of courage to brave the elements of their time.
We're going to start in 1870, right there in Minnesota. On this day, a state senator presents a petition with just 150 signatures. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but this was a formal, public demand for a woman's right to vote. It was a huge first step, and it meant braving a whole lot of political cold.
Now let's jump forward 102 years to the day, January 25th, 1972. Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm steps onto the national stage to announce that she's running for President of the United States. I mean, just let that sink in. She was the very first African-American to ever seek a major party's presidential nomination. A monumental barrier was just shattered.
Just think about the scale of these ambitions, both happening on the same date. Back in 1870, you have this local spark of change in Minnesota. And then, a century later, that spark has become a national fire, right? It ignited this huge conversation about who gets to run for the country's highest office.
But the history of January 25th isn't just political. This date also marks the birth of a tradition that celebrates braving the cold. Quite literally.
Because on January 25th, 1924, in Chamonix, France, the first ever Winter Olympics began. Now, they originally called it International Winter Sports Week, but that was it. That was the event that launched the global tradition we know today. It's basically a massive celebration of athletes who thrive in conditions just like the ones in Hastings.
1. That single digit really captures the theme of this date, doesn't it? The first Winter Olympics. The first African-American to seek a major party's nomination. One of the very first formal pushes for suffrage in Minnesota. January 25th is just a day of incredibly powerful beginnings.
And all of this brings us full circle. right back to where we started. A freezing cold Sunday, January 25th, 2026, in Hastings, Minnesota.
And what we've discovered, I think, is that the quiet cold of the present is actually humming with the echoes of a super dynamic past. So while the people of Hastings are bundling up, the date itself holds these powerful stories of struggle, of ambition, and of global celebration.
So, let's end with this question. On a day that feels like it's defined only by the weather, somewhere out there, maybe even in a small town just like Hastings, someone is taking a small step, launching a bold idea, or starting a brand new tradition. So what quiet, historic firsts are happening right now, just waiting for a future generation to look back and remember this day?